Was a brutal week in global stock markets. The European markets were down about 7%. That's the worst week since March of 2020. That was the beginning of the COVID crisis. And in fact, the euro currency was down about 3% on the week. So in US dollar terms, you're talking about a 10% decline in 1 week. As I mentioned on the last podcast, the reason for the selling in Europe is because European companies and the European economy is more exposed directly to what's going on in Russia than the United States or other Asian markets. And in fact, what's also going on is a lot of the rotation that was taking place prior to the Russia crisis, where people were selling U.S. stocks and buying European stocks. That's now being reversed, and that's obvious by looking at the currency. I think this is a correction in that trend. I don't think it is a reversal. I think there's a powerful force that is going to continue to move money out of U.S. assets, even if it's temporarily being directed back to U.S. assets by this perception and the strength of the dollar. That helped U.S. markets weather this weekly storm a lot better than the European markets. The Dow and S&P were only down about 1.3% on the week. Now from their highs, the Dow down 9%, S&P down 10.2%. Russell 2000 and NASDAQ fared worse. They were down about 2.5% on the week. Off the highs, the Russell 2000 down 19%, almost bear market, and the NASDAQ down 17.5%. But the money-losing, high-risk companies, as I suspected on my last podcast, that dead cat bounce is over. Cathie Wood's ARK Innovation ETF was down 11% on the week, so a bigger decline than the European markets. And in fact, matching that decline exactly was the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust that was also down 11%. Very high correlation, as I mentioned a long time ago, between the ARK Innovation ETF and the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. In fact, ARK is down 62% from its high. The Bitcoin Trust is down 55%. In sharp contrast to what was going on with Bitcoin, and as I'm recording this, Bitcoin's around 39,000. We broke below 40,000. Gold had a big week, up 4%. We closed the week just over $1,970 an ounce. This is the highest price since August of 2020. But in terms of euros, it is an all-time record high price of gold. Gold stocks also had a good week. The GDX was up 8.75%. The junior gold mining stocks up 8.5%. Now, normally you would see an even bigger move in the juniors than the seniors, but in the type of market we have now, you're not seeing that. But I do think if the gold market continues to shine, and I think it will, we're going to see a bigger move in these smaller stocks. In fact, when it comes to gold and Bitcoin, gold is really taking over the limelight now. This has been the first real major test for Bitcoin, and it failed. I don't think it's going to get another shot. Bitcoin has failed on every promise that promoters made. It's not a store of value. It's not a safe haven. It's not an inflation hedge. It's not digital gold. It's not a non-correlated asset. It's nothing. And in fact, if you think about it from the perspective of Russians or anybody else, if you're looking for a safe place to put your assets because you're afraid that some foreign government is going to seize it, gold is where you want to go. I mean, these Russian oligarchs that are afraid of having their assets confiscated, they're not going to take a chance on something as risky as Bitcoin. You can't put real money into Bitcoin, but you can put a lot of real money into gold and keep it safe. In fact, this is how I think this is going to backfire on the dollar. The dollar's going up right now. Enjoy that rally while it lasts, because everything that's happening is going to put the dollar's reserve currency status into jeopardy. Think about it from China's perspective. You're watching what's going on. The U.S. doesn't approve of what Russia is doing in the Ukraine, and I don't approve of it either, but that's neither here nor there. But the U.S. doesn't approve of it, and look at how Russia is being punished. The reason Russia is vulnerable is because they have reserves and other assets that foreign governments can seize. I mean, we're shutting them out of the U.S. SWIFT system. We're seizing their dollar reserves. I mean, Russia is holding on to these foreign currency reserves in case there's an emergency. Well, here there's an emergency. The ruble is crashing, and they have no access to those reserves. In fact, the only central bank that's still working with Russia is China. And I wonder if we're going to retaliate against China. Now, potentially the Biden administration is not dumb enough to do that. But even if we don't directly retaliate now, the idea that we might do something similar clearly is not going to sit well with the Chinese, who have trillions of US dollars invested in US treasuries or other assets that we may just decide to seize or default on if we don't agree with something that the Chinese are doing. And it doesn't necessarily have to be invading another country. I mean, we could flex this muscle whenever we want, and I don't think China enjoys basically putting a noose around its neck and throwing the other end to the United States. So I think you're going to see the Chinese really stepping up their selling of U.S. dollars and U.S. treasuries at a time where the Federal Reserve is saying that it's going to be reducing its balance sheet. It's not going to be rolling over maturing treasuries. And so it's going to be very difficult for the U.S. government to unload these treasuries in that environment because we're still running these record deficits. And I also think we have the potential, if we're going to bring Russia and China even closer together, India might end up being pulled into that. That's about 40% of the world population that we may be alienating and pushing out of the US dollar system to our own detriment because we depend on the dollar's reserve currency status. That's the reason that the US market is holding up a lot better than it is. But if that rug gets pulled out from under it, look out below. Look at other markets on the week. Oil prices up 26%. We close at $115 a barrel for the price of oil. Copper, by the way, hit a record high. Wheat is surging. So massive increases in food and energy prices. Now, a lot of people are talking about how this is inflationary. This is not inflationary. Oil prices going up, food prices going up. That's not inflationary, because what happens is that if consumers have to spend more money to eat or heat their homes or drive their cars, they have less money available to buy other stuff. And so the prices of the things that you're not buying go down. And so there is no net overall increase in prices. What makes the prices go up is when the central bank responds to rising energy prices or rising food prices by printing more money, which is what they're going to do. Because as consumers have to tighten their belts because food is so expensive, because home heating oil or gasoline are so expensive, and they cut back spending on everything else, that causes a recession. And that results in the Fed printing more money, and that's what's inflationary.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof. to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really, really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.